The Many Faces of COVID, an interactive qualifying project completed by
Matthew Golbin,
David Roby,
and Gwyneth Zalmanow,
and presented during the COVID-19 pandemic.
We are currently living through the COVID-19 crisis. This virus spreads at an alarming rate, quickly reaching populated areas all over the world. This graph is showing the number of confirmed cases by day in various places throughout the world. Be aware, these numbers most likely are higher than reported due to limited testing. In the United States, the epicenter of COVID-19 is in New York, which as of May 8th has about 340,000 confirmed cases. COVID-19 is highly contagious, which has caused stay-at-home orders to be placed to encourage people to social distance. Social distancing means staying at home and working remotely as much as possible, keeping your distance, avoiding crowds and physical touch, and to wash your hands regularly. Social distancing has affected people across the country. In fact, 20.5 million Americans filed for unemployment in April, with the unemployment rate reaching 14.7%, which hasn't been this high since the Great Depression. Some people are starting to feel boxed in. Their anxiety and depression levels are rising as they try to do work and/or school remotely. Instead of celebrating birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, births, and other important events in person, we now have to do it all virtually. People aren't allowed to physically be with loved ones who don't live with them. They can't give each other hugs, kisses, or even high fives. We all have lost basic human contact. Our team realized that we were in uncharted territory and that we had the unique opportunity of studying how people were being psychologically affected by COVID-19. Once realizing this opportunity, our team had the goal of capturing the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of adults through the use of a longitudinal daily diary. In order to distribute our survey, we had a website dedicated to sharing our content. When coming to the website, study participants were first greeted with this homepage, featuring information about our study and a button to enter the longitudinal daily diary. After clicking the button, the daily logging would begin. Participants clicked and dragged sliders for various prompts, such as "The news about COVID worries me" and "I am feeling anxious." These sliders ranged from "not like me at all" to "extremely like me," in order to record their psychological and emotional state of mind for the day. The numerical data we gathered formed the outline of each participant, like an emotional silhouette in a picture.
Imagine a blank wall. On it, a few picture frames appear. You struggle to see the silhouettes of people, and as you strain your eyes, a few more appear. And then a few more. You're drawn to attempting to see many more details, a unique sense of curiosity which makes us human. As a team, this is the exact feeling we shared when conducting our study. We had data and we had numbers, and yet we yearned to see the people behind it all. We wanted to see their unique story and figure out why their data and numbers looked the way that they did. What if we had a flashlight and we were able to shine light on those pictures on the wall? Would you be able to see them clearly now? Just like a flashlight adds definition to a darkened picture, we developed a tool which brings a personality to light in faceless data. Let's take a closer look at this tool. Two key characteristics were found in all participant data: variance and severity. Variance defines how a person changes on a day-to-day basis. Ever felt sad one day and really happy on the next? But exactly how sad and how happy did you feel? That's where severity comes in. We took 6 emotions and feelings, of which each of our participants reported to us, and calculated profiles for them based on their results. Using these profiles for each of the 6 emotions and feelings, we created visualizations such as these, which convey variance and severity. On the visualization, variance is represented by proximity to the center, with bubbles closer to the edge representing high variance and bubbles close to the center representing steadiness throughout the study. Severity is represented by bubble size, with a larger bubble representing a more severe feeling. This visualization tool is our flashlight, which eliminates the shadows cast on people and illuminates their stories.
To finally bring the three-dimensional person out of the two-dimensional photograph, We asked participants to tell us stories about personal experiences and the ways that they coped with COVID. We also asked these participants how helpful they thought these coping mechanisms were and the extent they found themselves trying new activities.
Each respondent had a slightly different way of dealing with their stress, some positive, such as exercise, and some negative, such as substance abuse. One such respondent said that they had begun stress eating due to quarantine. We were curious to see if evidence of this coping mechanism could be found in this participant's longitudinal survey data. In the polar bubble graph that we generated for this respondent, we saw that their anxiety and their sadness were severely high for the duration of the study. This data could explain how the participant's negative coping mechanism during this period of quarantine had a large impact on their emotional health. This relationship between this person's story and the polar bubble graph is further strengthened as their energy level remains steadily lower during the study, a known side effect of stress eating. This could be a good example of emotional representation based on a negative behavior.
The vast majority of answers indicated that our participants are coping with these difficult times by engaging in things that they normally do and by trying new activities. Our next person commented that they have responded to the pandemic by engaging in activities such as taking walks in the woods, practicing yoga, and cleaning their house. These new activities help this person as doing these things gives them a feeling of control since what's going on around us is so far out of our control. As a result, this person's polar bubble graph shows that their energy level was constantly in the mid-range and their feeling of safety was in the high range. While their anxiety, fear, and sadness fluctuated on a day-to-day basis, they still reported that all three remained in the low range.
Some people have undergone a massive shift in lifestyle due to the travel restrictions and quarantine. For example, person 3 normally travels all over the United States with their significant other. However, due to COVID-19, they have been forced to stay in one state, interrupting their travel plans for the foreseeable future. They say that, we still have some ups and downs, parts of days, never whole ones, where we are very sad or just demoralized. In addition, this person's polar bubble graph shows a high, steady level of sadness throughout the duration of the study. Thankfully, they are able to get through these days by supporting each other and taking comfort in the knowledge that this interruption of their lifestyle will eventually pass. This relationship between this person's story and the polar bubble graph is further strengthened as their wellness was also reported as high as sadness, showing that while they recognize the negative emotions that they face, they make an effort to focus on the positive emotions too.
The final person we will discuss is finding solace through the knowledge that this pandemic will eventually pass, and remembering her experience during the Vietnam War. Her husband was drafted shortly after they were married, and she was stressed and scared that he might not return. She said, "It was much scarier then, but I thought of all the women in World War II who didn't know when or if their men were coming back, but mine would be gone for 1 year, not many years. I use the strategies I used then, now, to try to find positives in any stressful situation and use humor to help me cope." Her polar bubble graph shows that her emotions were extremely variable, and often her anxiety was high and her feeling of safety low. But her wellness was constantly high. Possibly, she used this coping mechanism to keep her emotional wellness at a healthy high level despite her high negative emotions. This relationship between this person's story and the polar bubble graph is further strengthened as their wellness was reported to be constantly high and their safety fluctuated heavily. For someone enjoying the outdoors, it is a risk to go outside and potentially meet another person. That could be a direct reasoning for their reported emotions.
Our experiences through this study have proven to us that there is still a lot to learn in relation to psychological health during a pandemic. While we can measure and quantify participants' mental health on a day-by-day basis, we do not know why exactly it changes the way it does. It was our goal to provide an understandable visual for this psychological information. We hope that this will serve as a tool for others to empathize with others during this crisis.